Hey Rebel Scum, I'm back. We've got another great jumbo for you today. I know it hasn't been very long since the last one, but they've been coming out left and right lately, so it's great that we're finally getting all these products. Something different today. It's not the original 99. It's a little bit expanded, but at the same time, kind of drawing inspiration from the originals. I'm going to be taking a look at the Disney Parks exclusive and Premier Guild exclusive Luke Skywalker, Hero of Yavin. I know some of you refer to him as Ceremonial Luke, but this one is called Hero of Yavin, so we're going with that title. So let's take a look at our favorite Luke Yellow Jacket and take a little closer look at him and see what's new and where they're drawing some inspiration from the decisions they made on this figure. I love how this guy turned out. They brought some different layering to it. He's got a little more accessories than usual, but still kind of true to that Kenner look. Again, they're drawing from the film right on the front there, so they get the shot of Luke just after he received his medal at the ceremony. On the back, we got the whole group shot, the ending shot of A New Hope. So keeping true to the old Kenner artwork of having the shot from the film on the front, or I guess sometimes it was test footage because they didn't always have the footage when they were making the figures. So keeping true to that, a little bit of a different color on the pill, which is fine because he is a little bit more unique. He's not from the original line. So I think that all makes sense. So let's dig in and check out this figure. I'm going to give your ears a break by having pre-opened this so you don't have to hear the rustling sound in the microphone. It's a service we provide here at Rebel Scum. These are really easy to open anyway. They just kind of pop right open. And they separate with the card back, which I always like to keep. I think they're great. They take up way less space than trying to keep the whole clamshell, and they even have the unpunched look to them, so just love that as a collector. So here we got our Luke, and toss that there. So looking pretty sharp. He comes with a blue lightsaber, which makes sense. At this point he still had a blue lightsaber. He has a blaster. He was still kind of in-betweener at this point. He hadn't fully embraced his Jedi prowess, so he was still slinging a gun at the one point and also had his lightsaber. And then we get the figure here in this little tray. So they have an extra rubber band on here to keep the metal in place. I'm just going to remove that so we can see if this metal is removable. And it looks like it is. I'm not going to fuss with it too much, but I think you can maneuver it over the head if you wanted to. But that's kind of cool that it's layered. It's not molded on there, so I kind of like that nice little touch. Yeah, I mean, he looks pretty sharp here. I'm going to say the body looks like it's all new, like a brand new mold for the whole chest piece here. I don't recognize this jacket. I mean, it looks a little similar. We'll take a look at Hans in a minute. And the metal obviously is all new. The head might be, I think this might be the Luke Bespin head. We'll take a look in a second and see if it is. This lightsaber here is likely the Luke Bespin lightsaber, but painted blue instead of yellow. I'll take a look at the Jedi one too. Funny thing with the Jedi is in Luke and Jabba's palace originally came with the green, but there were also some blue lightsaber variants, so that did exist out there. And the blaster is very common. This is just going to be Han's blaster here, so nothing new on there. So Luke here coming out, if he would have came out in the original line, at that point would have been released in the Power of the Force line. So they were a little bit different. So obviously he wouldn't have had the lightsaber mounted in the arm like the original figure. So it makes sense that this is a separate accessory. So it's kind of cool that they kicked that sort of inspiration in there. Beyond that, I think they kind of, having a different head on there, I think would have been cool too, instead of having the Farm Boy Luke head. So I think that was a good move. So yeah, having the separate lightsaber was something they started doing with the Empire figures and moving forward. So that would have made sense for the period if they were doing a callback figure from the Power of the Force line. And other than that, I think they nailed everything that drawing the inspiration there. It makes sense for the period it would have came out. These are always difficult to get in the hands. I don't see a lot of space here for, I'm sure you could like maneuver it in there, but I don't see a lot of space for the blaster. But the lightsaber is definitely going to fit in there. And that looks pretty sharp. Yep. I mean, these are ideally collector's pieces. They're not meant for to be used as action figures like the original line was. So I think it's sufficient, and I don't really fuss too much because the original line also, as you recall, was just really difficult to get the accessories in the hands too. So I think that's kind of true to the line, keeping it that way. It's nice he has the holster on there, so they're mimicking the costume. I think it's a good replica of it. Altogether, I'd say he's pretty great. The metal's got some nice detailing on it, even though it's a Kenner-inspired figure. It's still got different colors on it. They have brown and then kind of a gold leaf here. A little detailing on the metal as well. So I think that's pretty cool. The jacket, they kept it a little ribbed, which they had on the on some of the figures. So I think that was kind of keeping in line with the figure set too. So pretty great. Why don't we take a close-up at him, and then we'll check out where he stands with the other Lukes in the line. This could just be the sample I ended up with, but I noticed the legs are a little narrow, so I had a little difficulty getting him to stand up. I had to sort of space him out a little bit. Sometimes they're just a little compressed in manufacturing or the packaging, and then they're open up over time. So that was a little tricky, but you can see he's standing here fine. I'm not using any clay or glue or anything to get him to stand up. You could really manipulate those hands. There was a little give. I was able to get that blaster in that hand. It was difficult, but there is a little give to get that in there. The lightsaber just slides in pretty easy. You might end up scraping a little of the paint applications when you're doing it. Like I said, these things are really tight fit most of the time, but I don't stress too much because I mean, I'm not putting them in and taking them out all that much. I mean, they just go in and they just stay there. More for display for me, less action figure function, but they still function just like they do in the original ones. They were difficult to get the weapons in. I appreciate that, keeping that sort of aesthetic or that design feature, because it's true to the original. Again, there on the back, you can see he has his giant stamp, just like all the other figures would at the time. So I think that's always cool that they kept that as well. All these figures have peg legs at the bottom. I haven't really seen a set yet for any of the jumbos where the pegs will come into play like they did in the old Cantina Adventure set. That one doesn't have pegs either, that if you were lucky enough to get that one that came out. So nothing really has pegs, but the figures do have holes in their feet, which again is true to the original, so I appreciate that. So let's take a look at Luke and see how he stacks up with other Lukes. All right, here we go. We have our Council of Lukes welcoming their newest member. Just taking a look at some different varieties of Luke and where they drew some inspiration from in creating this one. Obviously, I don't have the Luke concept up here, which I reviewed previously, just because he looks a little different. Well, his face is covered, so I didn't really think it would help. We're trying to show the comparison here. So you can see the Luke expression is relatively the same on most of the figures. The head, though, on this one, I think is pretty much taken from the Empire Strikes Back, the Bespin Luke here. Hair's a little different shade of coloring, but I think it's pretty much the same, if not highly similar to this head sculpt. Other than that, I think the entire Luke here is brand new. All new, newly tooled Luke here. I did not see the pants on any of the other figures because this is a new holster, so these aren't like Han's painted a different color. The jacket is completely new. There is nothing I've seen with this ruffling on it, so they didn't draw it from any of the previous characters. I thought maybe one of the Hans had it, but I was wrong. So this is all new. The arms, the jacket, the metal, the pants, the lightsaber. I thought was just a repaint. It's not. If you look at the yellow and the green lightsabers here, they're a little bit of a different shape. They have a round tip. This is a flat tip on it. It's a little thinner as well, although it still has those 3 little bumps in the handle or the hilt. It's a completely different lightsaber, so that's new. The blaster is the same blaster. Looks a little bit thicker than the other one, but still pretty much the same, which makes sense because they were a very similar weapon. So that's pretty cool. So you get a new lightsaber, you get a completely newly designed Luke, head to toe almost, and I think that's pretty great. He kept in the line in the fashion we were mentioning before, where he had that sticker on the back, or I'm sorry, the sticker, the writing. This one says 1977. Like I was saying, I think if Kenner continued the line, he would have been in the Power of the Force line, so he would have been stamped 83 to 85 or somewhere in there when the Power of the Force line was out. But other than that, I think they nailed it in terms of drawing the inspiration of changing the figure a little bit so he wouldn't have the blade in the arm. At this point, they were blades in the hand, so that makes sense. His blaster accessory makes sense. The look, or the Luke, makes sense. I love the metal on there, so it's a great addition to the Jumbo line. I'm glad we're getting more of these figures where it's sort of extending what Kenner could have done at the time. It's a great Luke. He fits along with all his brethren here. It's great to have another outfit on Luke, particularly one we never got, that we got in a lot of other lines subsequently. If you want to pick this guy up, it's going to be a little bit tricky. You either have to be a Premier Guild member right now. I don't think it's out for wide release. Or it's at Disney parks. So I know a little bit tricky to fit that giant clamshell in your suitcase, but as I say, take out the card back, take out the figure. If you don't need the clamshell, he's easy to pack away. If you're not a Premier Guild member, totally worth it in my opinion. I'm a Premier Guild member. It's $100 for the bottom tier, the apprentice tier. You get a free jumbo, you get a bunch of free coupons, and you get a discount on everything you buy. I mean, the jumbo is like $80, so it pays for itself almost right away. Plus you get those unique jumbos. So you're only going to get a jumbo for a Premier Guild member as the free gift. And then you're going to get the ability to buy unique jumbos like this guy here, or like Thrawn, or you get early access to exclusives. So totally worth it to join the Premier Guild membership. Check it out on GentleGiantLTD.com. So here's our Luke. We're going to have more jumbos coming up. This is like the season of jumbos. I think there's at least 2 or 3 more this year before year's end. So we'll see what we could show you guys before the end of the year. So as always, like, subscribe, and follow. There's always new things on Rebel Scum every day. So check back to see what news we have, and there's going to be plenty coming up sometime soon. I don't want to give away any surprises, but there are many, many things to be announced still. So until then, stay vigilant, you Rebel Scum.